What if you had X-ray vision? Have you ever dreamed of seeing through walls, doors, or even your own skin? Sounds like the ultimate superpower, doesn't it? But be careful what you wish for, because if you truly had X-ray vision, the consequences might be far more terrifying than thrilling. This is What If, and today we're asking, what if you had X-ray vision? We've all seen it in movies and comic books. Some cool, confident superhero squints toward a wall, and just like that, they can see through it. No secrets, no barriers. Whether it's spotting a villain hiding behind a lead door or locating a kidnapped friend locked in a basement, X-ray vision is the kind of superpower that seems like the ultimate tool for justice. Or let's be honest, for fun. But what exactly is X-ray vision? And could it ever actually work the way it does on the big screen? Let's start with the basics. X-rays are a real thing, no fiction here. They're a type of electromagnetic radiation, just like visible light, radio waves, and microwaves. The key difference is that X-rays have a much shorter wavelength than visible light. That might sound like a small detail, but in the world of physics, wavelength determines everything: how the wave behaves, how it interacts with materials, and most importantly, in our case, what it can and can't pass through. Because of their short wavelength and high energy, X-rays are able to penetrate soft materials, like skin and muscle, while being absorbed by denser materials, such as bone, lead, and some metals. This unique property is what makes X-rays so useful in the medical field. When you get an X-ray of a broken arm, for example, the X-rays pass through your skin and flesh, but are stopped by your bones. That contrast is captured on a film or digital sensor, creating the familiar black and white images we've all seen at the doctor's office. But here's the catch. Seeing with X-rays isn't like using your normal eyes. Your vision depends on light reflecting off objects and entering your eyes, which then sends signals to your brain. X-rays don't behave like visible light in this sense. You don't just see X-rays naturally. In fact, human eyes can't detect X-rays at all. So if you wanted to have X-ray vision like a superhero, it wouldn't be as simple as flipping a mental switch. You'd need to somehow replicate what a hospital does with an X-ray machine. That means creating a system with three essential components: an X-ray emitter to produce the radiation, an object to scan, and a detector that captures and converts those X-rays into an image you can understand. Think of it like trying to look inside a wrapped present. You can't just see through the wrapping paper. You'd need a scanner that sends X-rays into the box and a sensor on the other side to read what's inside. Your eyes, unfortunately, are not that sensor. Even if your body magically gained the ability to detect X-rays, that wouldn't be enough. There aren't a whole lot of things on Earth that naturally emit X-rays. The sun and outer space do, but Earth's atmosphere blocks most of that out. So unless you were standing next to a particle accelerator or an X-ray machine at a hospital, your environment would seem pitch black. You wouldn't be able to see anything at all. This brings us to a major point. Having the ability to see X-rays isn't the same as having X-ray vision. In superhero movies, the character doesn't just passively receive X-rays, they somehow produce and interpret them all at once. That's like being a walking X-ray scanner, which in real life would require a combination of high-powered radiation output and sophisticated sensors built into your eyes and brain. And even then, you'd need something to process all that data. The images produced by real X-rays aren't in full color or high definition. They're grainy, black and white shadows that require expertise to interpret. Radiologists train for years just to understand those images correctly. So unless your brain got a massive upgrade along with your eyes, you'd probably be confused by what you're looking at. Another issue? Distance. X-rays don't just stop when they hit something. They continue through until they're either absorbed or exit the other side. That means depth perception would be a mess, and without careful calibration, you could end up seeing overlapping layers of things, like bones, organs, wires in the wall, all at once, with no idea which layer is which. So yeah, just having X-ray vision isn't as glamorous as it sounds. To really make X-ray vision work, you'd need more than super eyes. You'd need a full-body radiation system, high-speed data processing, layered image interpretation, and perhaps even the ability to filter what you're seeing in real time. And we haven't even gotten into the health risks of blasting X-rays all day. But don't worry, we'll get to that soon. For now, it's safe to say this. X-ray vision in real life would be less like Superman and more like being a walking medical device. Complicated, impractical, and maybe even dangerous. But hey, we're just getting started. Ready to dive deeper? Okay, so let's say you've somehow been gifted with the ability to shoot X-rays out of your eyes. Sounds amazing, right? You're halfway to being a real-life superhero, except there's one big catch. Physics. This is where things get messy. Imagine trying to be both the flashlight and the camera at the same time. That's essentially what you'd have to do to truly see using X-rays. In a medical setting, an X-ray machine works like this. The machine emits X-rays on one side, the patient stands in the middle, and a detector or film sits on the other side to capture the image after the rays pass through. The image forms based on how much radiation makes it through different parts of the body. Now imagine trying to do all of that with just your eyeballs. How could you emit X-rays from your eyes and then also detect them instantly before they pass right through the object you're looking at? The short answer is you can't. Not unless you could somehow move faster than the speed of light, which, as far as we know, is totally impossible. Let's break that down a bit. X-rays, like all electromagnetic radiation, travel at the speed of light, about 186,000 miles per second, or roughly 300,000 kilometers per second. That's not just fast, that's the universal speed limit, according to Einstein's theory of relativity. Nothing, not even your incredible new superhero self, can move faster than light. Not now, not ever. So, unless you're some kind of sci-fi anomaly, there's no physical way for you to race around to the backside of a wall or a person before your own X-rays pass through them. If you tried, you'd always be too slow to catch up. It would be like trying to chase your own shadow, except your shadow is moving at light speed. Now you might think, okay, what if I had a friend with the same power? Maybe one of us emits X-rays and the other detects them. Sure, that sounds like a decent workaround. Sort of like a superhero buddy cop movie. One of you blasts the rays, the other watches the scene unfold. But let's be honest. How often are you and your X-ray partner going to be perfectly aligned on opposite sides of an object, coordinating your eye beams like a tag team from the Justice League? Unless you're always in the right position, it's just not going to work. And even if it did, now you've got two people emitting radiation, which only doubles the problems we'll get into later. Spoiler, it involves cancer risk and public health nightmares. Then there's the issue of the environment itself. Unlike visible light or sound, X-rays are not naturally floating around in the air waiting to be picked up. They're not like sunlight or light bulbs, which bathe everything we see in visible wavelengths. Instead, X-rays are rare. They don't occur in everyday life in a meaningful way unless you're standing next to something really extreme, like a nuclear reactor, a black hole, or a high-energy physics lab. In fact, Earth's atmosphere blocks most cosmic X-rays from reaching the surface. That's actually a good thing for our health, but it means bad news for your superpower. If you could only detect X-rays, meaning you're not emitting them, you'd be essentially blind in 98.99% of the world. Think about walking around your house with the power to only see microwave radiation. You wouldn't see your couch, your walls, or even your own hand unless someone happened to be blasting microwaves nearby. Please don't try this at home. That's what it would be like to rely only on X-ray detection. You'd be in complete darkness unless you're hanging out in a hospital radiology wing or chilling at CERN next to the Large Hadron Collider. Even more ironically, the only places you'd be able to see would probably be the most dangerous. The presence of natural or artificial X-rays often signals radiation hazards, places where humans normally wear thick lead vests or don't go at all. Let's say, just for argument's sake, you could somehow be both an emitter and a detector, maybe with two eyes doing different jobs or some sort of wild science fiction brain chip managing the process. Even then, the logistics would be insane. You'd need to focus beams precisely, filter out interference, and interpret images in real time without frying everything and everyone in your field of view. You'd basically need the eyes of a cyborg and the brain of a radiologist rolled into one. And then what? Would your X-ray vision give you perfect 20/20 insight through anything? Not likely. You'd still have to deal with overlapping structures, poor contrast, and layers upon layers of visual noise. It wouldn't be like seeing a crystal-clear skeleton in front of you. It would be like staring at a blurry, shadowy mess where skin, bone, furniture, and electrical wiring all blend together like a bad Photoshop job. So as cool as X-ray vision sounds, the physics behind it makes things painfully complicated. You can't be the flashlight and the camera. And nature isn't exactly rolling out the red carpet for you to see in X-rays. Without an emitter, you're blind. With one, you're a radiation threat. And no matter what, you're fighting against the laws of physics. And spoiler alert, physics almost always wins. Still want those laser eyes? We're just getting warmed up. Up next, what happens to your body and everyone around you if you really start shooting X-rays everywhere? Let's go ahead and say you pulled it off. Somehow, you've managed to unlock one of the wildest abilities in comic book history. You can shoot X-rays from your eyes. Forget laser beams or heat vision. We're talking pure, high-energy electromagnetic radiation coming straight out of your face. That's pretty awesome, right? Well, not exactly. Because the moment you start using your power, you don't just become extraordinary, you become extraordinarily dangerous. See, X-rays are not harmless beams of sci-fi coolness. They're a form of ionizing radiation, which is a fancy way of saying they're powerful enough to knock electrons off atoms. That might sound small, but it's a big deal. When ionizing radiation passes through living tissue, it can damage cellular structures, alter DNA, and disrupt how cells function and reproduce. And that's not just theoretical. It's a proven path to mutations, organ damage, and yes, cancer. In fact, that's why hospitals and dental offices go to such great lengths to limit your exposure to X-rays. You've probably been asked to wear a heavy lead vest when getting an X-ray. And the technician? They usually step behind a shielded wall before flipping the switch. That's because even small doses of repeated radiation can be dangerous over time. Now imagine that you're emitting constant, unshielded X-rays from your eyes. Anytime you try to use your vision, you're essentially turning yourself into a miniature radiation reactor. Anyone nearby? They're being hit whether they like it or not. They're absorbing your superpower like a slow, invisible wave of danger. You'd be a walking biohazard. Unless every person you interact with is wearing full-body lead armor, they're at risk. Friends, family, strangers on the street. You wouldn't just be unsafe, you'd be toxic. Imagine trying to walk through a grocery store. You look down aisle 4, and boom! Half the people in your field of vision just got a dose of radiation they didn't ask for. Not cool, superhero. But the danger doesn't stop there. You're not immune either. Your own body is made up of the same delicate cells and DNA as everyone else's. Unless your X-ray power comes with some kind of built-in radiation shielding, you're in just as much danger, maybe more. You'd essentially be frying your own tissues every time you used your powers. Eyes, brain, skin, organs, everything exposed to your own energy output could suffer damage over time. Think about your eyes for a second. Human eyes are sensitive, fragile organs, filled with soft tissues and fluid. They're not designed to emit high-energy beams, and there's no natural way for them to shield themselves from internal radiation. The very act of generating X-rays from your eyes could potentially destroy them, or at the very least, impair your vision long before you ever get to see through a wall. And even if your body somehow had evolved to withstand the radiation, maybe you've got supercells that regenerate rapidly, or you're made of some unknown element, the ethical issue still remains. You'd have to actively choose when and where to use your powers, knowing that anyone around you could suffer long-term health consequences just because you looked in their direction. Let's not forget the legal implications. In the real world, exposing people to ionizing radiation without their consent is a serious offense. You could be looking at lawsuits, criminal charges, and possibly being locked away for public safety. Governments would treat you less like a hero and more like a biological weapon. And you know what? They might not be wrong. Governments and military agencies already spend billions developing, storing, and controlling radioactive materials. With uncontrolled eye-level radiation, you'd be placed under surveillance faster than you can say CDC. You might end up in a lab, being studied, possibly even feared, weaponized, or locked away forever. So instead of being hailed as the next great protector of humanity, you'd be a walking caution sign, a radiation hazard symbol in sneakers. People wouldn't be asking for your help. They'd be crossing the street to avoid you, because every glance, every blink, every accidental gaze could mean cellular damage and an increased risk of disease. And here's another kicker. X-ray vision wouldn't even be very useful in everyday situations. Want to find your car keys under a pile of papers? X-rays wouldn't help. Want to read a book? Nope. Your powers wouldn't let you see ink on a page. You'd just be endangering people while trying to solve problems that regular eyesight handles just fine. So here's the bottom line. X-ray vision might sound cool, but it's a superpower with a serious dark side. You're not just gaining an ability, you're unleashing a hazard. It's a power that turns you into a mobile source of radiation, not a hero. And unless you're ready to wear a hazmat suit and live in isolation, it might not be the power you really want. Superpowers are only as good as the consequences they bring. And in the case of X-ray vision, the risks don't just outweigh the rewards, they obliterate them. So the next time you wish you could see through walls, maybe take a second to be grateful you can't. Because the cost of X-ray vision isn't just your health, it's everyone else's too. Let's flip the script. Forget shooting X-rays from your eyes. Instead, imagine a version of X-ray vision where you can't emit radiation, but your eyes can detect it. Sounds safer, right? No more worrying about giving people cancer with a glance or accidentally frying your own brain. Seems like a better deal, right? Well, not so fast, because if you could only see in X-rays, meaning your eyes were somehow tuned to detect only X-ray radiation, your life would be, in one word, dark, really dark. We're talking pitch black, can't see your hand in front of your face kind of dark. That's because, despite their cool reputation, X-rays are extremely rare in the natural world. Unlike visible light, they aren't floating around everywhere, just waiting to illuminate your path. Our current vision works because our environment is saturated in visible light, from the sun, light bulbs, computer screens, even fireflies. That light bounces off objects and into our eyes, allowing us to perceive color, depth, and motion. But if your eyes could only detect X-rays, none of that would register. You wouldn't see sunlight. You wouldn't see a smile. You wouldn't even see your own reflection in a mirror. Instead, the world around you would appear as an empty void, unless you happen to be standing near an artificial X-ray source. And those are pretty rare outside of hospitals and scientific labs. You'd probably need to set up residence in the radiology wing of a hospital, where machines are constantly firing X-rays for medical imaging, or maybe pitch a tent next to the Large Hadron Collider at CERN, where high-energy physics experiments produce radiation as a side effect. And even in those high-tech places, the view wouldn't be all that exciting. X-rays don't create stunning visual experiences. They're not colorful, they're not immersive. The images produced by X-rays are typically grainy, low-contrast black and white shadows, with details that are hard to interpret without special training. You wouldn't see people's faces or the color of their clothes. You'd see their bones, their dental fillings, maybe a pacemaker or two if they have one. And that's if they're standing between you and a good radiation source. X-ray images also lack depth perception. Since X-rays pass through layers of matter, your vision would be a 2D collage of overlapping structures. No clear separation between the first object and the 10th, just an eerie, translucent mashup of internal organs, pipes behind walls, and wiring inside electronics. It would be like living inside a poorly developed photo negative, and you'd probably have a constant headache trying to figure out what anything actually is. Now let's talk about color, or more accurately, the lack of it. Your current eyes can process more than 10 million shades of color, thanks to a beautifully evolved combination of cones, rods, and retinal cells. You can detect contrast, appreciate sunset gradients, and distinguish between a ripe banana and one that's about to go bad. But X-ray detection? It's colorblind. Everything would look like varying shades of gray, flat, lifeless, and mostly incomprehensible unless you're trained to read radiographs. In essence, you'd be living in a world that's visually dead. And unless X-ray sources were specifically designed to light your way 24/7, even your ability to navigate a room would be severely limited. You wouldn't be able to read signs, recognize people, or even tell where the floor ends and the wall begins. Want to go outside? Forget it. Sunlight doesn't contain X-rays by the time it reaches Earth's surface. Our atmosphere filters them out to protect us. That means your X-ray-only eyes would see absolutely nothing under the open sky. Ironically, the very thing that makes Earth safe for life, its ability to shield us from harmful radiation, also makes your new power practically useless. And sure, you could carry a portable X-ray emitter with you, but now you're right back where we started in Part 3. Emitting radiation poses serious health risks to you and everyone nearby. That solution turns your harmless vision upgrade into a public safety hazard. Again, let's not forget how hard it would be to communicate and connect with others. If your perception of people is reduced to skeletons and indistinct gray blobs, how do you read body language? Recognize a loved one's face? Tell a baby from an adult? You'd miss out on the small, vital visual cues that form the foundation of human relationships. Even the most advanced military-grade night vision goggles or thermal imaging cameras, while limited, still offer more functional vision in low-light environments than what X-ray detection would give you in most normal settings. The truth is, our current human vision system is a masterpiece of evolutionary design. It balances sensitivity, clarity, range, and color in ways no man-made device, and certainly no X-ray-based vision, can compete with. Our eyes allow us to safely navigate the world, read each other's emotions, admire the beauty of nature, and respond to fast-moving changes in our surroundings. So what would life be like if you could only see in X-rays? It would be isolating, disorienting, and frankly, miserable. Your world would lose all color, all clarity, and all human connection. You wouldn't gain insight, you'd lose perspective. Superpowers always seem exciting until you really start to live with them. And in this case, X-ray vision wouldn't enhance your life. It would remove everything that makes sight so deeply human. So after all this, what's the final takeaway? What does this deep dive into the reality of X-ray vision actually tell us? Honestly, it says more about us than it does about any hypothetical superpower. At the end of the day, imagining X-ray vision reveals one simple truth. The human eye is already a masterpiece of design. With over 2 million working parts, your eyes are far more advanced than they get credit for. They can adjust to different light levels in a fraction of a second, focus on objects near and far with pinpoint accuracy, detect motion, track color changes, and even help your brain interpret emotional cues from facial expressions. And they do all this 24/7, almost effortlessly. We often take that for granted. We dream of sci-fi upgrades and fantasy powers, imagining how much cooler it would be to see through walls or detect hidden threats. But we rarely stop to think just how good we already have it. Your natural vision is more powerful, flexible, and valuable than most people realize, not just biologically, but emotionally and socially too. Because the truth is, X-ray vision, while flashy in the movies, comes with a mountain of problems in the real world. There are severe limitations in how it would work, if it could work at all. The physics just don't line up. You'd either need to move faster than light, manipulate radiation, or perform biological tasks that no known living organism can even begin to attempt. Even if you somehow managed to overcome all those scientific barriers, you'd be stuck with a power that endangers your health and puts others at risk. You'd have to constantly worry about radiation exposure, shielding the people around you, and possibly dealing with the mental strain of seeing people not as human beings, but as weird, translucent structures of organs and bone. What kind of life is that? Let's be honest. Seeing someone's skeleton instead of their smile would probably be more disturbing than helpful. Your relationships would change. Your emotions might even dull over time. You'd become disconnected from the things that make us feel alive. Color, expression, subtlety, beauty. That's why, when you really think about it, this whole what-if scenario becomes less about what you could gain and more about what you could lose. And what we already have, our regular human vision, is nothing short of incredible. Just take a second to consider what your eyes let you do every day. You can recognize a friend from across a crowded room just by the way they walk. You can read a handwritten note and instantly connect with the emotion behind each word. You can watch the ocean waves roll in and feel at peace, not because of some superpower, but because of how perfectly your eyes pick up on light, movement, and contrast. You can watch a sunset and be struck speechless by the way colors blend and fade into each other. Fiery orange, soft purple, deep blue, all captured and processed by your humble, unassuming eyes. No X-ray vision in the world can replace that. Your eyes are tuned not for fantasy, but for connection. They're designed to help you survive, yes, but more importantly, they help you feel. They allow you to laugh when you see a baby's smile, to cry when you watch a movie that hits too close to home, to fall in love with someone just by locking eyes across a room. It's not about seeing through things, it's about seeing into moments. And for that, your everyday vision is more than enough. Sure, it's fun to imagine what we'd do with superpowers. It's exciting to think about breaking the rules of science, about being something more. But maybe the greatest superpower isn't found in comic books or genetic mutations. Maybe it's already in us. Maybe it's in the way we process millions of colors and identify the tiniest details. Maybe it's in the way we can detect the flicker of a candle or the tear forming in someone's eye. Maybe it's in how we use our vision not just to navigate space, but to navigate relationships, memories, and meaning. So the next time you wish for something more, some new ability that would make life easier or cooler or more impressive, pause for a second. Step outside. Look around. Really see the world, not just glance at it. Because what you already have is extraordinary. So, what would you do if you really had X-ray vision? Would you use it for good, or realize it's more of a curse than a gift? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this what-if scenario, share this video, subscribe to the channel, and thank you for watching. We'll see you next time for another mind-bending possibility.